Well, I'm delighted to be joined here by Bernard Jackman and Donncha O'Callaghan. And folks, let's chat about the contrasting fortunes in terms of the Ireland-Welsh picture. Bernard, it really is a tale of two nations, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think we've been very lucky over the last 10 or 15 years, the success of Irish rugby, but we also should be really respectful for what Wales have brought to the game, and they're on their knees at the moment, and hopefully this is the low point and they start to build back up again, because I think we all need a strong Welsh regional game, because it's so important to URC, but also at international level, and they will be back. Just obviously they need to get a plan together. And this week Warren Gatland leaving, it's a bit of a soap opera, and you know, obviously short-term measures for the rest of the Six Nations, but they need to get a DOR in place, or someone at the top who's actually going to drive this game forward again, because Rob McBride, who's given so much to Welsh rugby, was interviewed last night after the Leinster Ospreys game, and he said, you know, Welsh rugby's lost its soul, and you could see the pain in his expression, and that's not good. He's not alone. There's a lot of brilliant rugby people in Wales who at the moment just don't know what way forward.
Yeah, it's a difficult time over there. On this side of the sea, we're talking about Grand Slams and the history of possibly 3 championships in a row, and they're looking at the wooden spoon.
Yeah, it is. They're so contrasting, Claire. And look, you must credit the RFU, because whatever about our professional game, they've got it right in terms of structures. And look, we were really lucky to have the provinces, whereas they went with different regions that maybe didn't gel as well. But the regions have been struggling for a while now, and what's probably been seen is a lack of player depth, and that's disappointing for the Welsh, because normally when you would have played against these players, they could play poorly with their regions, but when they put on a Welsh jersey, they played beyond themselves, and unfortunately we haven't seen that over the last while. But I think they will look to Ireland, and now this nearly being a reset, and put these types of structures in place. Whatever about coaches, they definitely need a director of rugby, someone to show the direction and to help them, because like Bert said, they're too important to world rugby.
Well, we can get the Welsh view now from our colleagues at S4C, who are here for tonight's game, commentator Gareth Roberts and former Ospreys hooker Ifan Phillips. Folks, thanks for joining us. Gareth, can I just come to you first? Just give us a sense of the mood in the Principality. Is this Welsh rugby at its lowest ever ebb even?
I believe so, and referring back to what Bernard just said, it was interesting listening to Robin McBride last night saying that the soul had gone out of Welsh rugby and nobody was enjoying it anymore, and it's hardly surprising. It's well documented. Wales are on a current run of 14 successive defeats. The last win came at the 2023 World Cup against Georgia in the pool stages. We're currently 12th in the world rankings, ironically 1 place below Georgia, so it was hardly surprising when the announcement officially came on Tuesday that Warren Gatland was leaving. He offered his resignation after we lost at home against Italy in the Six Nations last year. That didn't happen. Many people have suggested perhaps the WRU should have terminated his contract at the end of the autumn internationals. That didn't happen. Several other people have referred to the fact and suggested that following a players' review prior to Christmas, that Gatland had lost their support. Be all that as it may, a decision has now been made. Matt Sherratt is the interim coach. He will be responsible for the 3 remaining games in the Six Nations. Now then, he will not be considered for the job long term, because he's just signed a new contract with Cardiff. This week, of course, he's preparing his team to play against Connacht in Galway later this evening. When he returns during the week, he's got 1 week to prepare for the next game of the Six Nations, which is, of course, Ireland, who are on fire, going for a Grand Slam, as you said. Should they win on Saturday, they'll win the Triple Crown. So Matt Sherratt certainly has got his work cut out. And Ivan, would you agree that a decision had to be made and it was time for Gatland to go?
Yeah, most definitely. I think Ronan O'Gara said it last week. The definition of insanity is repeating an action over and over again and hoping for a different outcome. And with 14 losses on the bounce, 500 odd days without the win, something most definitely had to change. And there's a lot of talk at the moment about the coaching staff, but you can't help but to feel for the players. I think a lot of players, there's a lot of aspect in rugby where you can control your effort, your intent and your desire, and I think a lot of players have held themselves accountable for that. You've got Jack Morgan putting a big shift in, Gareth Thomas, Will Rowlands, David Jenkins. I think they've held themselves accountable for it, but the most frustrating part is the lack of clarity and creativity, especially with ball in hand. They've found it very, very difficult to penetrate any sort of hole in the defence. So I think that is most definitely down to a coaching aspect. So like you said, I think the right call has been made.
Ifan, can I just ask you, you mentioned creativity there, and just in terms of Matt Sherrard seems to be already be shaking things up. We know he's already added 2 10s in Evans and Anscombe. What do you make of that?
Yeah, most definitely. I think what Matt Sherratt's going to bring, and the main focus point for him, he's already mentioned it in the media, saying he wants to create environment and maybe have a mind shift change where the players can really enjoy and then thrive in the environment. He's brought in 2 out-and-out 10s, and that's been maybe one of the critiques on Warren Gatland, and only picking Dan Edwards as an out-and-out 10. So it's great to see Jared Evans and Gareth Anscombe in it. They're going to bring a wealth of experience, and I think especially someone like Jared Evans, he's going to play flat to the line. He's had great success in the last few seasons going away to Harlequins, so I'm hoping that he's going to be able to have an opportunity to play.
And just briefly, Ifan, what about the chat of linking our Simon Easterby to the job over there?
I think it would be great for Welsh rugby if we can get someone from the calibre of Simon Easterby, especially he's obviously living in Wales. It'd be great to see him, but there's a lot of complications with that. Obviously, will he want to leave a very, very successful Irish team at the moment? Me personally, I know I wouldn't, but if he wants the challenge, then that'd be great for Welsh rugby.
OK, well, Ifan and Gareth, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you get back up to your commentary box. Gentlemen, enjoy the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernard, just on that, Simon Easterby, you don't see that as a runner, do you?
Look, I think if Simon Easterby wanted to go, I'm sure the RFU would be open to it for family reasons. You know, his family are living in Wales. I actually think the fact that he has such experience at Welsh rugby, I would imagine would make it more unlikely he would want it. You know what I mean? I think Wales they'll want to get someone who has an idea of how big the challenge is. I mean, Gatland came back, when he came back the second time, he said, I didn't realise how bad it was, you know, and you got to go into this with your eyes open. But the challenge for the WRU is anyone who knows too much about Welsh rugby and how parochial it is, how starved of funding it is, they won't be rushing into this job. And I think Simon might know it, obviously, from Simon of Scarlets. Also, he's in an unbelievable environment here. I mean, the way the Six Nations has started, you would say he's the heir, the successor to Andy Farrell long term, if Andy Farrell ever decides to go on. And the system here is it's never perfect, but it is a nice system to work in for those coaches. So also he's under contract, so the WRU would have to buy him out. So I don't see that being a live opportunity for Wales. Who they go for is going to be a huge one. Matt Sherratt, I mean, in the corporate world, as people who are experiencing crisis management, when he took the head coach job at Cardiff, they only had 8 players contracted in the car park because it was during that project reset. Yeah. So he's a hands-on coach. He will make them better attacking wise. And I think the Welsh public, if they see a Welsh team go at Ireland next week with a little bit more of a plan, they'll actually feel the progress has been made.
Who do you think the job will be attractive to, Donncha? I suppose, will they go for a young, up-and-coming coach who can sort of help with the root and branch reform that's needed there, or will they go for another big-named coach?
No, for me, I think they need someone that can coach a young group. Someone like Lee Blackett, I think, would be an excellent fit. He's someone that coaches with Bat at the moment, but he has experience with his time in Wasps, and he's good at nurturing young talent, and that's what they need. Like, you don't want to be tough on Warren Gatland, but selection and game plan were wrong in his opening 2 games, and what you need to do now is liberate these players. Like we said before, I promise you, Claire, if they're given a clear game plan, these lads will go out and implement it, and that's what they probably need. For me, I think there needs an awful lot to be done around it. I think they definitely need a director of rugby, someone, but we were chatting about it off air there. It's very hard to think of someone in that role. You know, no one really jumps out, and luckily for Ireland, all the good ones are here.
Yeah, and what can Matt Sherrard do now? As you mentioned, he's up in Galway tonight. I mean, he only has, 5 days or something to prepare?
Yeah, he's only 5 days. It's far from ideal. I mean, even for the press conference, he was still wearing his Cardiff tracksuit. It's all kind of stick a plaster on and try and get something done quickly. But probably the fact that they're in such a rut, they probably are better off having more short-term pain than actually make decisions that are going to affect the game long-term. And you heard Mark Jones last night, the Ospreys coach, saying they can't recruit at the moment because they don't know what their budget is next year. So, but again, if you're going to get a director of rugby who's going to decide to go to 3 regions, you're better off actually waiting for that, so you can actually in 2 or 3 years' time have something that's actually moving forward. So it's a tricky time. Hopefully they get it right, and we see Wales getting back to where they should be, which is the top of the tree.
Yeah, certainly a tricky time. Well, let's show you a reminder of how things stand in the Six Nations. Ireland are sitting pretty right on top of the table with 2 bonus point wins ahead of France, England, Scotland, Italy and Wales, right there at the foot of the table with just that single point. And a reminder there, Six Nations coverage will continue here on RTÉ2 next weekend. We'll have England against Scotland for you. Live coverage is from 4 o'clock.